Good evening, everyone. I love you and I've got your back. I asked the other night if we could just hold off on asking each other how we are right now, because the answer is tough. And a good friend came back with, how about we just greet each other with, I love you and I've got your back. And so that's my new greeting, because that works. The Senate has been adjourned, as you know. The election is on Tuesday. We absolutely should have our PSP extension. In any rational world, anyone would have believed that this would be in place, that people would have their jobs and have that security right now. I want to remind you of what you did. You got overwhelming bipartisan support for our PSP extension. It's really, really important that we recognize that we got to do something different than any other industry because we're 80% organized, and because our champion, Chairman DeFazio, representative from Oregon who has championed so many of our issues, told the airline industry that they had to work with labor if they wanted to have any sort of relief. And so the industry had to work with us, and what we said was that any relief had to be focused on frontline workers, because we've been here before. And when crisis happens, it gets put on our backs. And I don't know if you remember or not, but in March I told you, not this time. This is not going to be put on our backs this time. And so we got the industry on our plan, which was paying for 70% of the payroll, keeping us connected to our health care, at a time when demand fell off by 97%. We are just now, in this month, back to demand at about 40%, but only 20% of the revenue. I spoke today to a member of Congress. I want you to know that even though Congress is not in session, which is disgusting, as millions of workers, all of you, are hurting. I talked to someone last night who said, Sarah, is this really the right time to be pushing forward on this? And I was talking to them about all the rational arguments about why it's the right time. And then I got very impatient and just said, listen, here's the deal. The people that I represent are out of work right now. The people that I represent have had their bases closed right now and have been cut off from their work. The people that I represent have had to go to work, and while others have been furloughed and now don't have the flexibility in their own lives, are sitting on reserve, are having to be closer to the airport, have already had our hours cut because we don't have access to that, and we have been meeting our bills on overtime hours well over those minimums. So the people that I represent need this relief now, because we've been there throughout this process for this country, and every single day counts. So every single day that the PSP extension is not in place, you can expect to hear from me, and you can expect that I'm working on this. So every single day we have been talking with representatives and helping them understand what we did, because when Congress gets to work on a big relief package, each committee does their specific work. And so normally the rest of Congress would just look to the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, for example, in the House, and say, okay, you got your piece covered. And what happened was that when Speaker Pelosi said that we were going to get imminent relief, either through a large relief bill or a standalone bill, and then the president tweeted that negotiations were off for relief for everyone, and then 6 hours later said that he supported an airline bill, everyone else, all the other industries climbed on and called and said, don't do that. Everyone was against us. Everyone was against us. And so her own caucus didn't understand, because that then defined our PSP extension as a bailout, as a help to the airlines, not a jobs and infrastructure plan. So because now this is taken out of the expert committee of the T&I and is taken into a larger audience, we have to go back and we have to directly educate every single member of Congress on what this was, because even people who were supporting us and what we were asking for didn't necessarily understand what the components of this were and why since we're 80% union, we got something so different that's the best template that should be used for every other industry, but certainly should be continued so that that good plan that we set is the best standard to meet for the rest of the relief plans. Fairness is not about pulling everyone down to the lowest standard. Fairness is about lifting everyone up. So we are regrouping. We are not giving up. I want to let you know that it is going to be very, very difficult in this environment, but we are not giving up. And we are continuing to demand of our airlines that they stick with this. And I have meetings tomorrow on that as well. We are continuing. We are continuing this work. I know that there are people who are saying, I have been in limbo too long and I have to figure out what I'm doing and I can't take this anymore. And I understand that. I do understand that. How could we not? This is part of what we've been saying to people. This is cruel to human beings to keep people in limbo like this. But we're going to keep it up. Your union's going to keep it up. We need to fight for people who have been cut off from their jobs, from their livelihood, and in some cases, people in one home, both without pay, without health care. It's not okay. And it really is not okay when we had this simple solution with bipartisan support. Now, there's another thing that I want to address. Our union works with Democrats and Republicans and independents and anyone who will listen to us. And guess what? I have to go in every single room that I can get into to talk to anyone. Part of the problem with our country right now is that there is this belief that we can't talk to each other, that we can't solve problems with each other. And you know that that's just not true. When you get on an airplane and you're meeting your crew, sometimes they're people that you've never seen before. But you got to work together. You got to get it done together. And you got to work it out. And so we are not constrained by party. We are moved by the mission of supporting our careers and pushing our careers forward. So we're going to be very honest with you about who is most open to talking with us about that and who we have to push the hardest and who stands in the way. We're going to be honest with you about that. And you decide what you do in your personal life and how you vote. But we have to talk to government. Our jobs are highly regulated, and right now, the only way that we have our jobs is if we have government relief. So we have to talk to everyone. So don't assign our union to one party or another, because we can't operate like that. We'll never get anything done if we don't talk to everyone, and we don't build support everywhere, and we don't go into every room to do that. So that's who we are. We're mission-driven on our careers, and we are stuck having to talk to politicians about that. So the very nature of the fact that we have to talk with politicians is not political. That's part of our role. That's part of our job to get results for flight attendants. So we're going to continue to do that. We have way more in common than anything that could ever divide us. That's who we are as flight attendants. We're going to stick together no matter what. We're going to stay focused on what we have to do. And because of that, because you have approached that this way, you have called every office. You have protested at Democrats and Republicans' offices. You built support for our issue when no one thought support like that was possible for any issue. So we're going to keep it up until we get the job done. And I have had a hard time. It's been hard for me to get on here and talk with you because I've been sad. I've been really sad that there could be so much support for something and it doesn't get done. It's a hard thing to take when people are hurting. So I'm really sorry. And it's not okay. It's not okay for a minute longer, and so We just have to regroup and keep up the fight. And that is what we are doing. So we have a plan going forward, I want you to know, and we are working every single day to regroup and set this plan and continue forward to get this done. We are not giving up. And we will take all the support from you that we can get on that, and we will let you know what you can do to help. But I want you to know I'm not coming on here to tell you what to do. When I come here and tell you what you can do to help support that, it's your choice and your opportunity to make a difference in your life and the lives of your flying partners. And so that's what we have together. And we're going to keep fighting with that spirit. I love you, and I've got your back. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk again soon. Stay safe and stay together.